Hi everyone, this is the tutorial on how to sew a Celestial Church of Christ female white garment cap. So this cap is without stay. I'll be showing you how to cut and how to sew this, but if you want to watch the one that has stay, it is in another tutorial. I'll post the link in the description box. So the cap measurement, I'll be using 9.5 inches for the wideness of the cap. The reason I'm using this 9.5 inches because I don't want it too big or too bogus. So if I'm adding stay, you'll see it in the stay tutorial. It will be wider than this so that it will be flat on your head. But this one does not have stay. So that's why I made it 9.5 inches for the wideness. So I folded it into 8 places. Just follow the process that I'm using right now. You fold it as if you are folding a flare gown. So that's how I folded it. So I'm trying to arrange it in case it has shifted. So I realized it has shifted. That's why I'm trying to arrange that part. So please be careful of that part. Be mindful of it so that it doesn't end up longer than each other. So I'll just trace out the 9.5 inches out. Just make sure the taper is on the tip, like I'm doing on the tip of the flare angle. So I'll just cut it out. So this 9.5 inches, I use it for most people, like most women. So it's like a basic measurement. So this is the band. So the person's round head is 23 inches. So divided by 2 will give me 11.5 inches. So I'm adding 2 inches for sewing allowance, which is 13.5 inches. So whatever I'm cutting out now is 13.5 inches for the wideness. So anything you measure on the person's head, just place the tape around the person's head. Then whatever you measure, add 2 inches sewing allowance to it after folding. So that means if you open it wide, you'll be adding 4 inches to it. So I made the length of the band 2.5 inches. So I just traced out the 13.5 inches. Then I'll cut it out. So if I'm doing measurements for the one that has stay is different from this measurement. So it has 2 different measurements. If it is the one that has stay now, it will be wider than this 2.5 inches. Although it depends on whatever the person wants, how wide the person wants it. But if I'm doing normal cap, I don't want the band too wide. So that's why I made it 2.5 inches. So this is what it will look like after cutting. So now this is the sewing part. So this sewing part, I already ironed it and I folded it into 4 places. So I've cut 2 out. I traced out the first one. Then this down part, I'm using it for the lining. While this upper part, I'm using it as the main fabric. So I already ironed it into 4 places. Let me just fold it the way I did it before ironing. So this is how you do it. Then place your iron on it. So I just want to get the 4 angles so that I will follow the process in sewing it. So guys, the wideness of the cap is 26 inches all round. So the 26 inches, I'll deduct half inch. You know it's 13.5, which is supposed to be 27. So I'll deduct half inch for the sewing allowance. So everything I want to get now has to be 13 inches. Let me explain that part very well. You know this is 13.5 inches. So I'll come in by half inch here. You understand? So whatever I'm measuring now has to be 13 inches for the wideness, including the elastic measurement. That's what gave me that 13 inches. So I'm placing my taper on the 26 inches divided by 2. Give me the 13 inches. I hope you understand. So now I also divide 13 inches into 2. That's 6.5. So the 26 inches, whatever I'm measuring here has to be 6.5. followed by another 6.5, another 6.5, and another 6.5. So that 6.5 into 4 places will give me the 26 inches. So I'll just be picking my pleatings from the first line to the second line. So I just picked it randomly. So now I'm going to measure it to see if it is accurate. So it is exactly on the 6.5 inches, exactly what I want. So in case it is not on that 6 inches, I would lose it, then resew it again until I get the actual measurement. So now I'm going to follow the process again. Another 6.5 to the next line. So after sewing that, I want to measure it around to see what I have. So now I have 13 inches. I don't know if that is obvious. So that is 13 inches that I just measured now. So I'm good to go. So I'll just follow the process until I finish sewing it. So guys, you can see that as I'm sewing it, I'm setting the clothes. So make sure you are like arranging the clothes. Make sure it's not, one is not longer than the other. Just make sure it lays neatly. Make sure you are picking the two materials, that's the two fabric. So now as I'm done, this is the back part, while the front part is still inside. I did not bring it out or anything, just leave it the way it is. So I'm measuring it round. So this is 13 inches that I have here after measuring it round. So this is 13 inches that I have. So I guess I'm good to go. So I'll measure the same 13 inches on the band. So mind you, this upper part is 13 inches, but the down part, I'll make it 12.5 inches. Sorry about that. Let me just... Okay, so this down part, 12.5 inches. So the reason I reduced that half inch is because so that after sewing the band, it won't have like excess. It won't have remainder. When we get to that part, I'll explain it better. So this 13 inches is what I'll be using to fold in the cap. So don't bring out the cap, or just leave it the way it is, the way the face. Now the face is inside. So this is the face, the main cap is inside, while the back part is outside. So this is the front part of the cap, while this is the back part of the cap, that's the inside part. So the band, that's the front of the band, will be facing the inside of the cap. So this is the 12.5 inches, while this is the 13 inches that I'm touching right now. So it's the 13 inches I placed that I'll first sew. So as you are sewing, just be picking your pleats. Just place it neatly on the band. Don't let it be more than. Then sew it in by ½ inch. So guys, after sewing it, what I did was just fold it in. Like this is what you have after sewing. You can see that the band, the front is out, while the main fabric, the back is out. So I'll just fold it in by ½ inch. That's the part that I joined. That's the band part that I joined. So I'll fold it in by ½ inch. And I'll sew it round. So make sure you place the machine, that's the needle, on the tip of the band. just on the tip, like 0.1. Okay, so I had to shift the camera. I just realized that it wasn't really obvious. So I just picked it. So before you finish sewing it, before you get to the last part, you cut elastic. So the elastic, I'll cut out 4.5 inches for the wideness. Then I'll go ahead and tuck the elastic inside the band. So I'm going to leave a little space like I did here. Then tuck it in. So the elastic is going to be in between the line, that is the joint part of the band. So you can see that the band is laying very well on the cloth. That's on the main cap. So if I did not reduce that 1/2 inch, it would remain. That's why I reduced that 1/2 inch when I was sewing it. So I made the upper part 13 inches, while this down part 12.5 inches. You can see that there is no remainder here and it's laying flat and neat. So please don't forget to reduce that 1/2 inch so that you have a very nice band. You don't have a band that is curving or folding. So I tried setting the elastic. So it's in between the joint part. You can see the elastic part. So I'll just pin this part down. Then I'm going to shift the other side. So after shifting the elastic, I have like a little gathers. So I had to pin it down. Then went ahead and do the same thing to the other side too. So this other side, you can see the parts that I just gathered now. So I'll just go ahead and open this pin, remove the pin, and then do the same thing to the other side too. So after I was done with that too, I had to pin it down. Then I measured it. So the measurement, I want it to give me 23 inches, which is normal person's band. But it looks tighter, so I had to release it a bit. So now I'm going to measure it again. So the actual measurement I want is 10.5 inches, so that by the time I open it wide, it will give me that 23 inches. It will give me 11.5 inches. But the normal measurement I want is 10.5 inches. So I think this is okay. So now I can stitch. In case you measure the person's head and it gave you 22 inches, just know that after sewing it, after adding this elastic, make it, instead of 11 inches, make it 10 inches. So by the time you expand the elastic, it will be 11 inches. So it will be firm on the person's head. It will not be falling down. So please be mindful of that. So I had to top stitch on the elastic straight down. But this is optional. You can leave it the way it is, or you can just top stitch on it like this. So it depends on what you want actually. This one is optional. So that is the end of this cap. You can see how nice it looks. So now I can bring everything out. So this is the front part and this is the finished look. So guys, let me know in the comment section if you enjoyed today's tutorial, and please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and share to other people, please. Thank you so much.